Cyberpunk 2077.
And cross-gen gaming.
Hello and welcome to Triangle Square. I am your host, Brett Beck, and alongside me, Mr.
Saul Bridges, bringing you lucky episode 76. 76 of these things. Brett, tell them who we are.
We are PlayStation Podcast. You can normally find us Monday mornings, or technically, I guess it depends on where you're at, but Monday at 10 a.m. PST and 12 p.m. CST on YouTube in video format. If you like what we're doing there, give us a subscription. Hit the little bell so you can find out when these episodes go live. At least every Monday you'll get something from us, if not more often when we do other stuff. If you like what we're talking about too, give us your thoughts down in the comments below. We love to have conversations with people. If you want to listen to us on podcast services, you can find us on iTunes and all those other places. If you listen on iTunes, consider giving us a review. We do read them. I recently realized that I had missed one from a while back. So Joshua, if you are still listening to us, I saw your thing. Thank you. I'm glad that you think we're great. We're good when we are good.
Thank you.
One thing I've worked on or been trying to work on is not talking over Saul as much and realizing when I'm doing it to try and pull myself back. And otherwise, I will say this about the Xbox side, we bring up everything in an attempt to try and give reasoning, and I'm trying to think of the best way to say it. We use it to frame what we're talking about with PlayStation often. So we bring up Microsoft specifically to make sure how we're going to tie that into the PlayStation thing. We're not always directly on things. This is something we do as a hobby. If we had a little more time and stuff, maybe be a little bit more professional. Who knows? But we still, like we said, read those all the time and try and do what we can to take what's being told to about us from them so that we can get an idea of where to go and how to improve. So if you want to leave us a review, it helps us get our numbers up there anyway and helps people find us a little more. If you want to follow us on Twitter, we are at Triangle SQRD. We post pictures of custom cases that we do sometimes, post giveaways for those sometimes, other bits that we do and our thoughts generally, and you can contact us on there. You can meet us in our Discord that we have, and everybody's always popping with conversation. And also, you can support us on Patreon at the $1, $3, or $5 tiers, and there's different rewards for those if you want to check those out. The Patreon link is in the description below. So,
yes.
What have you been playing this week? I think we both know the answer to this, but it's also the way that it started with a Friday release. We may have had some stuff ahead of time. So, what you been doing?
Nothing actually more than Spider-Man. This week I've actually had a kind of chill break on games for the most part. I'm gonna go ahead and answer Matthew Green's question real quick in a weird way. That way, Matt, we don't think you don't think we left you out. But he wants to know if Spider-Man lives up to the hype. I think we both are planning on doing a impressions video together sometime this week, maybe.
Yeah.
So Matt, be sure to check in for that because you'll definitely get the answers there.
I would say the clear answer is that we've both been playing Spider-Man.
Right, and we
both have interesting ideas that I feel like are a little against what some of the industry thinks to some extent.
A little bit,
but it does live up to the hype.
It does.
I would say. And it's obviously a quality-made game, but I will expound more on my thoughts when I've beaten it, because I've also gotten to play it far less than Saul, and we will make sure that we cover our complete thoughts and make sure they're all covering the entire game. We're not speaking from a half point of knowledge on that. But go ahead, Saul.
Yeah, with the way my schedule's working out this current week, we should be able to go ahead and, at least I know I'll be able to go ahead and crank out the ending here real soon. Depending on today, if not today, probably tomorrow or Tuesday, but I love having the fun with it that I am, and it is really solid. But as Brett said, there is some qualms to be had with the game. Nothing major, but I would say actually for what I was expecting, a little major. But yeah, so that's kind of it though. Spider-Man, and
Any games of Rainbow Six or anything this week?
No, I haven't played Rainbow Six this week at all. Didn't even play Rocket League this week at all. No Dead Cells, no Death Gambits either. Kind of weird for me.
Yeah, Dead Cells has been out of rotation for me, not because of anything other than just time restrictions. So what I ended up playing this week was beating Guacamelee 2. Of course, we ended up playing Death's Gambit, but that was just for the stream. So we'll count that, though. So there is that.
Excuse me.
We did the stream of Death's Gambit last weekend. Fun game. Still enjoy it. I beat it at that point, and I'd already been out of it and playing Guacamelee 2. Beat Guacamelee 2, and then that was actually that was Tuesday night. So what I was thinking Tuesday night is, well, what do I do? Because Wednesday rolled around, and I was like, I don't know what to play, but I don't want to start something when Spider-Man's about to come out when I'm going to want to jump into that. One of the things I have is not wanting to play more than one game at a time. So when I'm doing, like, I was going through that and I was like, well, what do I want to play that I don't really care if I get in and out of right now? And I had bought that Shadow Blade Reloaded game, which is this fun, small, bite-sized segments because it was originally a mobile game.
Yeah.
But it's fun. And like I say, it would have made a really cool, full-fledged Metroidvania. But all things considered, I was like, I'll hop in for a couple levels. There's not really a huge exposition on this. I don't really care if I hop in and out of it. I only spent $1 on it. It was a good time waster in that sense. So I had fun with that. And then Spider-Man hit, and we have been busy in a ton of different ways.
Yeah.
Thankfully, Corey got to come down. We hung out with him. So I've actually only gotten to put maybe 8 hours total time into Spider-Man. Some of that's just swinging around the city and having fun. But I'm looking forward to getting back into that so that we can have a good, comprehensive impression. So that's it for me as well. I'm trying to think of what I'm going to play after. I think I might hop in a Hyper Light Drifter.
Yeah, you need to.
Since I hadn't yet. I'm still thinking about your recommendation. So
fantastic game.
Saul, you want to go ahead and hop into the drop?
Sure. So for those that don't know, the drop is PlayStation's releases across all of this coming week, and there's quite a lot in here, so we'll just go ahead and get started. First on the list, we have Black Clover Quartet Nights for PS4, a digital and physical release. We have Boundless for PS4, a digital-only release. Claws of Fury for PS4. Construction Simulator 2, US Console Edition for PS4. Interesting. Fossil Hunters for PS4. Marble Duel for PS4. NBA 2K19 for PS4, available digitally and physically as well. We have Nefarious for PS4.
Am I wrong? I thought that came
I thought
out.
the guy told us that at GameStop the same thing. Like, I thought he told us that's why people were there. So the drop may be wrong on this. I don't know. I thought that was kind of weird to be in this week's. But with the weird releases they do every week,
well, it depends on where Spider-Man's at, but yeah, we'll see.
We have Neon Wall for PSVR. NHL 19 for PS4, available physically and digitally. Shadow of the Tomb Raider for PS4, available physically and digitally as well.
Friday release, too.
And it's a Friday release. Yeah, that is true. And we have Stay for PS4 and PS Vita. We have Super Street The Game for PS4. Trickster VR Co-op Dungeon Crawler for PSVR. And we have V-Rally 4 for PS4, digitally and physically. Interesting rally game there. Really wish Dirt would come back.
It's not been that long since Dirt, right? Dirt's had a
not
PS4.
Dirt. No. MotorStorm.
Oh, man, yeah.
I don't know how
one of these days,
confused.
something will happen that's a MotorStorm like. It is still sad to see that Onrush ended up tanking so much because people wanted MotorStorm, me included, to be fair, and then it ended up falling through. It is what it is. A lot of the developers ended up getting moved different places, but some of them had to move on. I think the head developer for that game actually went to Slightly Mad Studios, which is, I think it's Project Cars.
Interesting.
I'm pretty sure that's Slightly Mad Studios.
Speaking of all the car games, I still want to borrow Gran Turismo after yesterday. That was fun. And I feel like that's a good break game from Spider-Man. Because Spider-Man is one of those weird kind of, just to throw a thing of Spider-Man out there, I could play for like 4 hours, but then certain weird pacing things that happen make me just kind of like want to take a break for a couple minutes just because it gives you that kind of free downtime. But thought that was interesting to throw in real quick.
Yeah, Project Cars. Because I remember they were the people that made Need for Speed Shift, which was like the first offshoot of Need for Speed.
Never heard of
that. Then they
that
did Shift
one.
2, which wasn't even like, it was still Need for Speed offshoot, but it didn't even say Need for Speed in the title. It was just called Shift 2. It's very odd. It was like a offshoot that became its own franchise for a little bit.
That's super weird.
It was very odd. But racing games have a weird market, and they still go a bunch of different places. Need for Speed still being around is still interesting. I'm surprised no one's finally killed that off. But
yeah,
that's interesting. So what do you think is the most exciting game for you this week?
Nothing really.
Yeah. Shadow of the Tomb Raider is something I look forward to getting to eventually.
Yeah.
I did actually enjoy Rise. Ended up playing it on computer because I didn't want to wait, and then I never got around to playing it again on PlayStation 4, even though it's a fine game. In a lot of ways, I think Rise is better than the first one, not necessarily from a story standpoint, but from a general gameplay standpoint. But that said, Shadow looks interesting. I don't know if it's just something about it looks off, and I don't know if it's just evidence of it changing developer hands, that it being
possibly.
It is weird to have a final game in a trilogy, because that's what this is. Go off to another developer. I feel like it'd be weird that Crystal wouldn't want to just stick with it and finish it off. I don't know why they're not. I mean, I assume because of the Avengers setup. Hard to say. We also don't even know where the Avengers setup is, like in terms of how far away that Avengers game is, where that moving goalpost is. We've heard about it so long ago, around the same time that Spider-Man was getting first talked about, that you feel like something's got to be coming of it by now, but that could still be 3 years down the line. It's interesting because you are working with existing characters and existing worlds, which does help in the fact that you're not having to come up with completely original lore and stuff like that.
No.
So I would assume, and this is an assumption, that it would help with building a game, because I think some of it comes down to, well, what world do you want to build? What do you want it to look like? With Spider-Man, it's like, well, we know that we want it to be New York and we want it to be Manhattan. What do we want to use as our inspiration? What parts of New York and where we've seen it before do we want to use? It kind of helps. Whereas, when you're doing a game that's completely in a new area, or like God of War, where it's like, well, we're talking about the Norse Wilds. Well, what is that? Nobody really knows. You can't, it's kind of, what do you imagine? And then how do you set up your lore?
Yeah.
That's not something that, when you're working on Spider-Man, the lore is there. But what lore do you tap into?
Exactly.
So the same would presumably be true of the Avengers. So I don't know. It's interesting to say. I think that we may be seeing it within the next year, but it'd be interesting to see if that's going to be an earlier next generation title. But that all depends on whether these reports that are back and forth about PS5 being a 2019 thing are real or not. I still think it's possible. I've said 2019 for a long time.
I hope so.
I would be excited. I think we've gotten plenty of value out of the PlayStation 4. And of course, we'll still get games up into that. So, up into next year, we'll still get games.
Right.
And some of the news makes me even think that we're still going to see more just because of the way they're hyping up these games. So
sure.
We'll see.
Why don't you go ahead and hop into the news then?
Okay, so first up is Metro Exodus will apparently be decently long, with the developer stating that the game will be the length of the 2 previous games combined, which comes in around 25 hours. So long by the standard of the series, not necessarily long by modern day games, but that also makes sense.
Still long for a first person shooter, though.
Yeah. Well, and the first person shooters that I love, which are the very story driven, big base. I love those. I mean, it's very reminiscent. That's why I loved Metro Last Light so much.
Because Doom was only 15 hours long?
Yeah.
That
sounds right.
And
it wasn't even really very open.
No.
Doom Eternal looks like it's going more open.
Which is crazy.
Is cool. Anyway, they said that there will be more time potentially for exploring, how much you want to explore. The team feel they've struck a good balance between open-ended gameplay with linear design for story, which makes sense. If you've played the Metro series, you know that there's a very specific narrative line they want to go through. I think that what they're probably doing is finding a way for the narrative line to help facilitate open-ended gameplay, but also have gameplay that will funnel you back in at times where you really need to keep pacing, which is something that we've been talking about a lot in certain games having pacing issues. So there's that, and they also they were mentioning that they're not the type of developer to do fetch quests just to pad the length of a game. So you won't have anything like that, but there will be open-ended exploring for you to kind of get to play around with the world, which is cool. I like that idea. Not that we really got to... you saw it in Last Light, because it's like you had wide linear or whatever you want to say. That's what Uncharted kind of tokened it as. But you played Last Light and beat it, right? Both of them? That's the second one.
No, I've not beat the second one.
But you've played it?
I played, yeah.
Okay. Well, you may remember early enough in the game when you kind of get into these areas that are they are linear, but they're
open.
It's like the Last of Us style, where it's like they're open enough that there is room to facilitate exploration.
Yeah, but
how much bigger does that go with Exodus, since it's going to be a next gen title? And what we saw so far looks like it's going for a much larger scale.
Good, because these games have really cool and interesting stories, and I really got to get back and play the first 2 again on PS4, because I played them originally on Xbox One, so I got to get the trophies for those.
See, it's always crazy when people say these things. It's like, what does this really mean? But one of the things in this interview is also that the footprint of the first game fit within the entirety of the footprint, or in the footprint of one level of this game. So it's one of those things where it's like, so you're telling me the entirety of Last Light,
that's
spatial-wise, like a footprint, is taking place in the same one world? Don't get me wrong. I mean, Last Light, you haven't beat it, but it's not a small game by any standard.
Well, even the first game, it's kind of hard to see that with.
Yeah, because the first game's not small either.
No.
Though it is smaller than Last Light. But, I mean, again, it was an earlier generation. It was like 2009, I want to say.
Something like that, yeah.
So for Xbox 360. Glad that Redo ended up coming, or Redux, whatever you want to call it, ended up coming with it, because it was originally never on PS3,
Yeah, and I have both of them, because they were on stuff like $10 for both of them on one PSN, so
I've got them on PC
worth
as well. They're very good games. I thought about buying them just to see if I'd want to mess around with getting the platinum, because I still have Last Light digitally on PS3. That's where I bought it. Random weekend, fine. I really loved it. Next up, Shadow of the Tomb Raider's file size has been revealed. So if you were planning on picking that up from the list, it's going to be 30.73 gigs, which is not awful.
No.
Kind of interesting. And I wonder if that's going to hold up true on the Xbox One X version where there's supposed to be some native 4K texturing. We'll see.
Yeah.
Because 4K textures are big. So I would imagine that
Massive.
it's going to be a massive difference. And whether they're on the disc already or if they have to be installed as a separate download.
Prepare to wait.
We will see.
Do.
Yeah, man. The Spider-Man install took forever, too.
An hour and a half.
An hour at least. Oh, you had to update. For some reason, I didn't. That's something we still haven't figured out.
Yeah, he didn't have a day one update. I did.
Collector's edition, though. I really do wonder if for some reason the collector's edition shipped with an update on disc. It seems unlikely, but it's possible. Let's see. Monster Hunter World is continuing its great post-launch support with the Autumn Harvest event that will begin on September 21st and conclude on October 4th. The event will bring nearly all of the challenge and event quests available in the past back, and there will also be dedicated Autumn Harvest quests, new costumes, and more login bonuses. One of those is like double the lucky vouchers whenever you log in, which is cool. Also on that, Monster Hunter World recently surpassed 10 million units shipped, still being
Impressive.
a ridiculous success. And something interesting about that coming up. So I'll go ahead and go to that. Actually, Final Fantasy 15 exceeded 8.1 million units sold worldwide since launch, and that's crazy considering that Monster Hunter World is a shorter-lived franchise.
Yep.
Up until recently in the West, it was more of a niche product over here.
Oh, it's still much more of a niche product compared to Final Fantasy.
Or it should be. I think that this game, World
Now,
really pushed it
now.
because they gave it a big push. But up until this year, very much true. That's crazy. You think about it. And now, of course, it's across the same number of consoles. So in a shorter time, a lesser known series, though I think, and I would have to actually see, I wouldn't be surprised if Monster Hunter was outselling Final Fantasy in Japan. But it definitely wasn't happening over here.
Yeah. That would be interesting to see.
But we'll see. Actually, I'm gonna look that up out of just curiosity whenever we get done here, because I would imagine that's possibly true. But speaking of Final Fantasy 15, the Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition HD stealth released on PS4 this last week at $30.
Now, why?
Now, of course, I still got to say this. There's a 2-week discount period that brings the game down 40% or whatever to $18.
Perfect price.
That is ridiculous. Now, don't get me wrong. $18 is fine. $20 would have been fine. $20 is what it is on phone for every episode. So when you're putting on console altogether, why would it not be $20 as well? Doesn't matter that you went HD with it. I doubt a whole lot of some work had to be done, to be fair. But it's control stuff, and it's things that you have to do to make the port make sense on the system. It's apparently also looking to come to Switch, which is interesting, which probably is a more safe home for it.
Yeah, that's where, honestly, I think if I was to pick it up and try it again, because they cut out a lot of side content in that game.
Yeah, because it's meant to be a streamlined
tells you how much, side content could be in the game. But yeah, so didn't get a Vita release, though. And I know you're upset. I know a lot of people are upset about that.
I'm upset about that, but I'm upset about it in the sense of Square has supported Vita for a lot, and of course, it's a game that would do well in Japan on Vita. So I'm really confused that they didn't even do it in at least Japan. But the fact that it also isn't coming to Switch yet is a little interesting. But my bigger qualm with it is that pricing. Even though you had to go back in and do a control scheme, because originally it was all set up for touchscreen, it doesn't mean that you just did $10 worth of work. Part of what porting a game is you have a game that is already there, and what you're doing is we can make more money from this game elsewhere. Porting it over means that we're going to have to do a little bit of work to make sure that it makes sense on the console we're doing it, but we'll be able to sell it for the same price and still make more money, right? Wouldn't you be a little mad if, let's say, I'm trying to think of, it would never happen, but let's just give it an example for some weird reason. Breath of the Wild is on Switch, right?
Right.
Let's just say for some reason that wasn't a Nintendo property and it just came to Switch first, and then 6 to 8 months later, they were like, hey, we're going to release Zelda Breath of the Wild on PS4 and Xbox One now. We did the port, made sure that it's all good, made sure the textures look good for it, and it's playable, but we're going to charge $20 more for it.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
So suddenly the game is $80. It's just, and again, that's not a perfect metaphor. It's just saying that why would that happen? I would not look at that. If anything, I would expect it to be a lower price or at least the same price. Definitely in the 6 to 8 month window. I don't think it's unfair to go $20.
Yeah.
Now, if this was years later and they still charge $10 more than the original price, I'd be like, come on, guys.
Well, and I think that they know it's because it's going to sell well. So I think they kind of just put that in there, and then they put it on sale to get all the people who wanted a cheaper price to get it now, and then that anybody who wants it later on is just forced to pay that price.
or catch it on a sale, because I figure this is going to be a game that
too,
rotates through sales a lot.
Yeah.
It's just an interesting. I can't personally fathom why that makes sense as a business. I wonder if the price is really going to affect it. I feel like you're probably right in the sense that everybody who wants it but doesn't want to pay that much is going to jump on it now, and they're going to be like, oh yeah, we're doing good numbers. I'm hoping the number just drops off after that, so that they're like, well, maybe we priced it too high.
Yeah.
So it's,
that's a possibility, and that's they should reconsider.
Yep, it's a weird way to go with it. But next up is more about Spider-Man. Continuing their over-the-top marketing for the game, Sony celebrated the launch of Spider-Man in Italy by setting up a bus in a lake that was tipping into the lake, and they actually had it set up to be portrayed like the webs.
Yeah, it's cool looking.
Cool, but man, are they just really going all out on marketing for this game? And that's part of why I actually expected a slightly higher
quality game.
a slightly higher. Regardless of quality, I can't speak too much about it because I'm not far enough.
Right. I'm just going to tell you right now, from what you're doing now, nothing changes. Nothing gets what you think would be better.
Okay. I mean, I trust you in that. So I just find it interesting because, like, World End brought that up too. The marketing hype behind it was so big. Of course, it's Spider-Man. They want to market it because it's going to sell. But they were doing it so over the top that I was like, man, they must have played this and been like, holy crap, guys, you don't even realize how much of a hit we have on our hands. This is going to sell bucket loads because the word of mouth is going to be so fantastic.
And I mean, it even did anyways.
Of course. And the word of mouth is going to be very positive around the beginning. And this isn't to say it's a bad game by any means.
I don't want anybody to think what I'm saying is making the game out to be a terrible
It is interesting that it ended up at an 87 Metacritic. Not a bad score at all.
No. Lower than I expected.
Yeah, it was just a little bit lower. I thought it would sit right at 90 at least, but it is what it is. Not every game can go up there, and that's really a good thing. You know, not every game can be the same. And somebody mentioned that it's not a problem in terms of some people that aren't liking Spider-Man as much. It's not a problem of the game itself. It's a problem of what year it's releasing in. So when you compare it to other games releasing this year, it falls a little flat.
I mean,
that's
I can kind of see that, but then again, when you go into
I haven't
game,
beat it, so I'm more spouting off what I've heard from a couple of other people, but I think that's interesting. So anyway, also on Spider-Man, all of the Spider-Man DLC releasing this year will be taking place in Manhattan, so they will not be expanding the map into any other parts of New York, which is a little disappointing, but not surprising at all, considering that the game went gold in September. They started working on this day one update, at least a small team you would imagine, while the rest of the team moved on to DLC. And since the first one's coming in October, like late October, right, mid to late, and then there's one coming about a month or so after that, and then a month or so after that, they've been. Boy, I keep hitting this thing today. You would imagine that they're working at such a pace to get the DLC out that it makes most sense that they wouldn't be building a new, even if smaller, area to also expand into. But it's a little disappointing because I don't know yet. I'm just hoping that Manhattan doesn't get a little boring.
Yeah, I will say I finally got the suit in the game that I was really wanting to unlock, and I was like, it's actually a suit that is really cool to use. I'll tell you off camera.
I like the suit power setup, and I was going through that last night. Let's see. THQ Nordic, this is good news. Recently acquired the rights to Kingdoms of Amalur IP from 38 Studios, so I would imagine that this is likely to get the treatment that their MO has become. I've talked about it a little bit on Twitter, but basically what THQ Nordic is known for is constantly buying other franchises and other IP and other rights, and then basically re-releasing them to try and get a new crowd coming into them. And if they do high enough to justify a sequel, they go on and push for the sequel. And one thing I like about that is that they do very reasonably priced remasters. They've all been really well done. I think Darksiders War Mastered Edition was $20 brand new. That's
for
awesome.
All three, or for all two games, not three.
Well, no, it's $20 for just the first game. Darksiders 2, when it first launched, was $40, but the game was still relatively new.
I must have picked it up on a digital sale then.
Yeah, they did have a combo.
That
I think
bundled
it was like 20 or 30.
Yeah,
a little bit later.
Yeah, I got it
for
20.
Yeah, it was the Furies bundle or whatever.
Something like that, yeah.
But they've done it on everything, right? So they started off as Nordic Games, and that's who bought the Darksiders rights and a couple of other THQ rights for games. They went through, did the Darksiders 2 remaster, went back and did the Darksiders 1 remastered. Then suddenly they just bought out the THQ namesake and then slapped it onto their name and became THQ Nordic. But it's interesting because now they've bought Red Faction.
Yeah,
they've got all the. I mean, they've basically expanded into all these weird games. I think that they technically own Saints Row now, because the parent company that owns THQ Nordic bought Saints Row, so they would have the ability. It may not be them. Who knows what ends up happening? But Saints Row coming into different hands is interesting because I think Deep Silver had it for a while. we may see a lot of the THQ series that people had like a really cult style love for, and cult classic style love for, coming back from them. So I hope that this leads to a sequel, because I don't know, Saul, did you ever play Kingdoms of Amalur?
I always saw it sitting in other places, but I never played it.
Super interesting, and it's got a weird world. And actually, if I had to compare it to any RPG that I've played, that Western RPG, I think the closest thing to it would be Fable. Closest, and that's still not perfect, but it's got a lot of charm and weird characters and enemies. It has a great art style. It's very colorful. It looks very pretty.
Oh yeah,
and it's got really cool. The idea of how you set up your character. It's really cool. If I remember the wording right, you have like fate cards, and you pull fate cards in, and that's how you change like what your character build is based around. It's been really fun. I haven't played the game since it came out on launch, but I still do have it for PS3. So I hope if we get a remaster, it's $30 or under. That'd be fantastic. But it was a cool game. It came out late, I think 2012. It was a very weird release schedule for it, so it ended up getting overshadowed by a couple of things. But it's a cool game. I like it a lot.
It looks really cool, and you were pretty spot on with the reference to Fable. Yeah, just there's something about it that has a, and I loved Fable for a long time. It's one of the only games that Xbox ever had, since I was never big on Halo, that really just pulled me in. I was like, man, and it was funny when they killed it off. I was like, well, that's sad, but different thoughts on all the series anyway. Let's see, a couple more things. Between September 11th and 18th, players will be able to get the Battlefield 1 Premium Pass free of charge. And lastly, and very interestingly, Death Stranding will be at Tokyo Game Show this year in a stage show presented by Kojima and the Japanese cast members. Rightfully so, considering where it's located at. Better get that release date.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
How much will we see more of the game, or will it be more of a celebration about what the game is trying to do? And they give Kojima a lot of wiggle room because he's so known that I could see them just letting him go up on stage and just talk very vaguely about the game, and then just showing off some of the cast members just because it's good show for them. Like, oh, everybody loves Kojima, let's just put him out here as much as we can. We've already seen that game show. The Game Awards uses him because everybody loves Kojima.
Yeah.
And so they're doing that. They've used him at a couple of events with E3, and then PSX. They've done panels and stuff. He's obviously great for PR. People love being able to talk about him and report on him. So we'll see if we see more about this game actually or not. But the other thing is, if there's a PSX, since we don't have a date, I wonder if the game gets also more at PSX. And what I'm basically saying is, the more that they continue to show it, the more I'm like, is this actually going to be a 2019 release?
I'm still betting it is, but we'll see, especially at TGS. Now I'm really excited for TGS, more so than I normally am, which is kind of interesting, because I'm more so excited for PSX than I normally or I'm more excited for PSX in general over TGS. Now it's like we don't know if we're getting a PSX.
So
and
this
now we're
may
getting
be the yeah.
So I just don't know.
I like TGS because of all the Japanese games in them. I don't play all the Japanese games, but it's cool seeing a lot of, like, Neo was announced there. Whenever they redid Neo, there's a lot of cool stuff that you end up seeing there that's very Japanese focused. And it's not annoying, but the only downside to it for me is that it's harder for me to just slap on and listen to, and then look when I have to when I'm working. So I have to be very focused on it and be like paying attention to the subtitles that are being given. Sometimes they do it where they have a narrator if you watch one version, and then they kind of overcast it. It's interesting. We'll see.
Huh. So it turns out in June, to kind of fill Ryan in, because I know Ryan was talking to this, in June they said that they are unsure of any press conferences by the end of this year.
Well, press conference is one thing, but that's not PSX. PSX is an event. Now, whether it has a press conference or if they go back and do what they did last year, where it's a stage show and like not a keynote, but more like a discussion between devs and stuff, they could do that and that'd be fine. And I'm cool with that. I want the event to be there because I just want to be able to go and look at new games and cool indies and stuff. That's kind of where I want to go with it. And who knows, Death Stranding may even be a playable, doubtful, but that'd be crazy.
It would be.
So that was the end of the news. Saul, if you want to go ahead and pull up our reader mail and see what we have in that department, and I will check Facebook real quick.
Sure. So for those that don't know, reader mail is our episode-to-episode segment in which we ask a reader mail question on Twitter on Wednesdays and Fridays over there at Triangle SQRD on Twitter. And basically, you ask us questions, and then we take 3 questions. We answer them per show with what we with corresponding with the reader mail tweets. And we take all the rest of the questions, we throw them into a file, and we read those on our monthly reader mail episodes that come out the first Friday of every month. We're going to start off this one with our good old buddy Josh. He says, my son loves this game so much that we put in 3 hours into the demo. what was the last demo that you played over and over because you love the game so much? And it is a demo for Captain Toad Treasure Tracker.
Is that the game
Switch.
that was Wii U originally, right?
I
Or do
don't
they
know.
do another one?
I don't
know,
keep up with like offshoot Mario games.
Yeah, I just remember Blaze actually weirdly liking the game. And it was an interesting thing for that. That makes sense, though. Him and the kids being able to play it, just sink time into it.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Saul, do you have one that you just know off the top of your head? Because I definitely have one.
I do. Unfortunately, for people who say we talk a little too much about Xbox, this is going to come from my Xbox Origins, 360 actually. But there's two. Shadowrun, back when it was the first-person shooter, the version that came out in like 2007.
Yeah, it was technically, it wasn't an online battle.
Yeah, it was, but you could play bots with friends.
Yeah, I do remember that.
And so, like, for one summer, we were playing Guitar Hero 2 and 3, and it was pretty much just run bot matches with friends.
And that was a
just
demo?
take turns. Yeah, and we just constantly played the demo. The
cool.
other demo was Viva Pinata. I never owned Viva Pinata, but I played the demo more than most people probably played the game when they bought it. I played the demo for probably hundreds of hours. The demo was so fun.
You know what's weird about Viva Pinata? That was it a Rare franchise?
I'm pretty sure it was, yeah.
It made its way over to DS. I thought originally that it was an Xbox exclusive.
Well, and it could be that Rare Chrome Studios. So Chrome Studios and Rare. So probably with Nintendo always, having that weird relationship with Rare, probably after the whole Banjo-Kazooie buyout, they may have just gave them the rights to use it for a 3DS or DS title, whatever system
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting.
I never knew there was a Viva Pinata game on DS.
Yeah, and I didn't realize until one day I was randomly looking, I was like, why is this game on DS? It doesn't make sense for, Pocket Paradise.
That's really cool.
So I thought it was weird because at the time I thought that at that point...
THQ?
Was Rare not owned by Microsoft at that point?
Maybe not.
They may have been in a free,
this
free
came
space.
out. This came out in 2008, which I'm pretty sure the original Viva Pinata came out in 2007 or 8.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So
man, that's crazy.
Yeah,
I did not know that. Mine is on PS3. Skate. Boy, I played that Skate demo left and right. And it was the perfect demo. Do you remember it?
I do. You're just in the skate park.
In the very beginning.
Yeah.
It's a perfect skate park. You have a good area, and you have 30 minutes to play.
Yeah, you had the bowl. You had all the rails you could go on. You had all the you had like 2 half pipes, I think,
Yep.
and then a lot of quarter pipes. It was everything. I had that on Xbox 360. I didn't think about that until now. Yeah.
Dude.
That was good.
I played that so much because literally you just play 30 minutes. It would say you're done. Then you could just exit and start it again.
Exactly. You just
and I was
playing
super
it.
into skateboarding at the time. I still love skateboarding. I just don't have the time to do it anymore, sadly. It's part of growing up. And definitely whenever I moved out of the country, I really had to stop because I had nowhere to do it.
Yeah, you'd have to get a mountain board out there.
But man, I played the Skate 1 demo probably more than I played Skate 1 by the time that I'd played it and beaten it. And that's sad.
I really wish they had remastered those games. I know they're not, but
I would kill for Skate 1.
Is Skate on Steam?
I don't think so.
With
I don't
controller
think it's ever
support?
been on PC.
Because if it is,
Go ahead and grab it on there.
dude, I am.
Yeah, I really want a
it's
new
not.
Skate. And then the other part of it that sucks is that Project Session is coming to Xbox so far as the only console and PC. And I'm sure that's because of the development, being easier between the two. But a little disappointing because I do want a new Skate game. That's like one of those weird things where Skate games were so prevalent from like 2000. Really, they were prevalent going back to the Tony Hawk Pro Skater series.
Yeah, they were.
But they really got big from like 2003.
No, 2000. Go ahead and go back all the way to 2000. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1.
Yeah, but Tony Hawk wasn't coming out every year with big games like where everybody.
But I'm saying 2000 was the
Sure.
start of like what I would consider growing up in that time to be the
'cause
2000 like 2009.
Pro Skater 2, of course,
was
Pro Skater
when-
3 and 4.
Yeah,
I think
skateboarding and stuff took
got
off.
skateboarding got really big, and around the time that they started pumping up the games left and right, like American Wasteland had a big marketing budget
That
for
game
it.
was so bad.
It wasn't very good. Project 8 was cool,
I didn't play Project
but it was very
8.
arcadey, but it was really cool, and I played it a lot. Of course, the Skate series happened, and it was weird because the Skate series was like the first real competitor to Tony Hawk, and it was doing so in such a different way.
Well, and it came at a time in which there were no good Tony Hawk games.
Yeah,
Because
that was when Tony Hawk was getting
Thug
into, like,
2 wasn't even good to me. Like I didn't
No,
like
Thug 1
2.
was awesome. Thug 2 was fun, but it was over the top too in a
Thug
bad way
1 was the best of all. Was still the best skating game of all time to me.
at that time.
No, of all time to me.
Skate definitely beats it.
No, it
personally.
doesn't. The fact that you can get off your skateboard and run around, all the pro skaters in the game you can go up and talk to, like Bam Margera and stuff.
Okay, you could do every bit of that in Skate.
I'm talking about the time. You couldn't do that at the time.
When did Thug come out? 2003? That sounds reasonable. Maybe 2005?
No, 2005. 2005 or 6. I was in junior high school when it came out. But
You're going to find out. 2003. Boy, I'm good.
Dang, I don't remember it being that early. I guess it was.
I think Pro Skater 2 was 2005 or 6 because then it ended up being a 2004. It was a year later.
You mean Thug 2. You said Pro Skater 2.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Thug 2.
Thug 2 was like, we rented Thug 2. We didn't buy it, but we had bought Thug 1.
Yeah.
And Thug 2 was fantastic. There's that stupid Bigfoot crap in that game, too.
You said Thug 2 was fantastic. You mean Thug 1?
No, I should say that, yeah, Thug 1 was fantastic.
I got you. All right. Anyway, that's definitely one. I can't think of another one. You played the hell out of that Octopath demo. I can't think of another demo that I played.
I guess that's another one. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Demos haven't been as prevalent lately. You know what I mean?
No, they haven't. And
like they started making a comeback and then they went.
Well, that's why I had to go to last gen. It's because like I haven't really played a demo this gen that like really.
Knack 2 is like one of the only demos I can even think about that I played.
I mean, it's mostly free trials now.
Yeah.
Or betas.
Yeah, because so many games are going towards the online side.
Which is what I like about Nintendo is a lot of their games on the Switch have demos.
Yeah, and that's
like
cool.
True demos.
Definitely. I wish more developers would bring it back. I mean, I think Sony would be somewhat wise. Definitely with a game like Spider-Man, there should be a demo for Spider-Man. I get
there should be.
I understand the argument against it, which is that you're having to take out and cut a slice and create false barriers and things like that, and you're spending time on that.
Oh, you can give it an hour, like the first hour of the game.
I think that'd be interesting. The demo just literally be a game like Spider-Man. You just be like, the demo is just playing the first, because in the first 30 minutes.
Well, that's what a traditional demo is, anyways.
Yeah, and just have it to where you download the whole game. It's a demo, but it basically it's time trial at that point is the problem because it really is. But that's what Skate was. It was just a time trial. They didn't call it that.
Kinda, yeah.
I mean, it wasn't set up to where if you.
It's still a demo though.
Like, yeah, it is
because to me. A trial and a demo are more closely related than a trial and a beta, or a demo and a beta, or demo and early access.
Sure.
So it's weird. Too many names for everything nowadays. With
games.
I
think the cool thing about time trials though is that they let your progress carry forward.
Yes.
Whereas Skate, that even though you had 30 minutes of playing a game that was an area that was completely in the game, you couldn't just go and buy the game directly after, and then it was already downloaded. You could just start playing it past the barrier that was originally there.
Right.
So, mixed bag, but I think it would be cool to see more people. Do that stuff. Oh man, there was a question and I screwed up and moved on past it. So that's
here,
great.
I'll go ahead and grab. Sean wants to know, congratulations on your run, my guy. That's really impressive. What you just you shared our Discord. Speaking of which, Discord links are in the description if you want to join. But yeah, congratulations on that. I know you've been working hard, and he earned $500 for charity for gaming.
Well, 500 pounds or euro, whatever. I don't know the symbol well enough, but I think it was pounds.
Yeah, it's pounds. So congratulations on that. He asked, if you could be any animal or species from a game, which one would you be and why? For me, he wants to be a Moogle. Koopo.
Dude, it's funny that he answered that way because that's totally my answer.
Is it really?
I really tried thinking about like what would I want. See, because like you don't want it to be just like okay, so I love Sly Cooper, right? And I do like raccoons are cool as hell, but a raccoon's a real creature. I'm trying to dig in and be like, I want to be something that doesn't truly exist. What would I want to be? Lombax is pretty cool. I mean, I've always liked Ratchet and Clank, and I always thought that was a very interesting looking character design and just a cool creature. But the more I go into it and I think about it, it's like, which one would I want to embody the most? And I love the way the Koopos act. You know, just being like, "What's up, dude?"
I'm gonna kind of cheat. I'm going to say a high elf from the Elder Scrolls series, which kind of cheating. It's a different species.
Well, I guess it's not really. Does he say animal specifically?
Yeah, he says animal or species. Animal/species.
Okay.
So I'm going to say either, high elf or Argonians. I don't like the way Argonians look, but like you could breathe underwater.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's also a good point for Khajiit. Just because I would like to walk around and speak like there's something that's so ingrained in my memory about J'zargo from Skyrim. You remember him in the Mage's Guild?
Him and what was the running liar? Malik.
Oh yeah. What about the traveling one that would always be like Khajiit has wares?
Oh, if you have coin, that's kind of just the barter thing they say. Like love it. The ones in the camp in front of Whiterun would say that.
I love it.
But did you get the question from Facebook pulled up?
I did.
I don't know.
And I don't know if I can go quite this in depth without some time and thought effort. That's a really good one. But Kiki asks, what 5 video game battle themes would you have someone listen to in order to really get a feel for your taste? So basically, what 5 songs would you give to somebody and go, this is encompassing, this is fully representative of my taste in battle music and games? Or even just music. I guess it could extend past that.
I may have to answer this in Discord. I don't know if I have an answer for this.
Dude, this is a long, I read it as soon as I pulled it back up. I was like, oh man, I'm trying to really think about that because it's a very long one. Very quickly, I want to say that most of the near ones are just super bad A. Trying to limit it down to one, I'm curious.
Does Become Gods count?
Become as Gods?
Yeah, does that count?
See, it's been a little while since I played Nier Automata, but is Become as Gods the song that's...
With the boss battle, yeah.
That's playing at the very end when you're flipping between...
I mean,
I don't want to say too much.
It starts in a boss battle, and then you have to run out.
I remember that. I'm trying to remember the song that was going on. I don't think it's that. It's been a little while since I've listened to the soundtrack.
Can I just say the first 5 songs in Nier? Like, the second one, because it's that good.
In Nier Automata? Man, I know the song name. It's killing me. I haven't listened to the OST in a little bit because I've been listening to other stuff.
You know, we have that community curated topics in Discord. I'm definitely going to put a detailed list there. And you guys will probably see it before. Well, maybe not, because this episode is going to go up on Monday, which is tomorrow for us. So I may not be able to have enough time. So really think one out. But yeah, for those that are watching, y'all throw that in our community curated topics in Discord, because I want to hear people's. Because right now I'm just blanking.
Man, it is killing me that I can't think of the name.
Rockman theme in Mega Man's good when you're battling him. But then again, I'm trying to think of like what else, like. Because I'm trying to think
about battle themes. Because I will say
most traditional sense of battle themes, in which it's a theme in which you're fighting a certain enemy
specifically tied to him. Yeah, that's very, very specific, which is something that games have moved away from a little bit. They typically reuse songs a lot. I actually do think Nier kept songs for each one to some extent.
Yeah, good variety.
Because there's the one that plays while you're fighting Simone. That's really cool. And it's
Simone.
Yeah, a beautiful something.
Who is Simone?
Oh, the I don't know. Again, I don't want to say too much, but the big red one that shoots orbs, that is in the opera.
The opera house.
Yeah, a beautiful song.
Is her name really Simone?
Cool. Yeah.
That didn't sound right to me at all.
You learn it in later parts of the game.
I know that. Yeah.
That's a cool one. Pascal's theme, whenever that's going on, is very pretty. And I don't think that that's actually the name of it.
Man, I cannot wait to replay that game.
Dude, Pascal. That is the name of the song.
You got the platinum for that game, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's
absolutely. I'm only no near plat Brett because I've not gotten it for the first game because it's way more of a drag, and it's really hard for me to go back and play that game on PS3 in comparison after playing Nier Automata. Playing Nier Automata I should have gotten it before playing Nier Automata, which was originally my goal. I screwed that up. It's still a fun game and I love it, but grinding it out isn't near as fun. It's more fun when you're playing through the story.
Well, thank you, Kiki, for the question, because we're gonna.
I'm gonna think more on it, and I will try and give you a real answer.
I'm gonna advise everybody who listens to this that wants to partake or who does partake in our Discord to throw theirs in there
or anywhere else. Shoot them to us on Twitter or Facebook group. I don't care.
Yeah, any place is fine. We have Richard Rivera keeping up with a recent tradition, saying, "What are your guys' favorite PSVR memories?" Can't really answer this one to a certain extent because I don't own PSVR, but I will say that playing Resident Evil 4. I don't know where 4 came from. Resident Evil 7, when you put the headset on me for like the 30 minutes I played it, was really, really fun.
Man,
I really want to play Gran Turismo now in VR, like with the steering wheel and everything.
Oh, dude, it's
if I had time to like play that today, I would definitely.
I really wish that I could get the racing seat that I've been wanting to get set up. I need to look into that more because if I can do that, I don't even know if VR would feel so on the nose. It's really cool. That's something you definitely need to do. It's really cool because you're right in the cockpit. Oh man.
I guess that's yours then.
Probably. I don't know. I really did like. There's a really weird fun to be had with Job Simulator, and
that is true.
It's so goofy, but I remember it so well because it's just over the top ridiculousness. I mean, Resident Evil 7 is really super compelling because it's the best use of VR I've still seen outside of Gran Turismo, but that's because racing games are an obvious choice because you sit stationary. It's easy to trick your brain into. Resident Evil did a fantastic job of doing it with real full-time 3D movement.
Yeah.
And it's still, like I said, it's still the best example. I mean, Farpoint was good, and there's a lot of games I haven't gotten to dig into that I've been really wanting to. I did like Accounting Plus. Again, over the top fun and just stupidity. It's a very fun way to experience VR, and it's almost more. It's not more memorable, but it's almost super memorable because of how unique to VR it's trying to be by making things that are only funny. I'm not gonna say only funny, but they're obviously heightenedly funny because of the VR experience. Like you mentioned that about like Job Simulator is fun. You wouldn't necessarily want Job Simulator as a normal game. It's fun because VR allows it to be immersive and goofy.
Yeah.
Whereas if you were just doing that with a controller, it wouldn't feel as fun.
Absolutely not.
And that's why I say, I mean, it's one of those perfect examples of where VR plus motion controls can make a really, really unique experience. So,
there's that one game coming out for VR, or I don't know if it's coming out for PSVR. It might be already for all I know. But it's the rhythm game where you have to like use the whatever.
Beat Saber?
Yeah.
Yeah,
is that out for VR?
It is coming to PSVR.
Dude, I want to play that for real. Like that game looks fun.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
man.
And again, that's something that people do like those types of games outside of VR. But
I feel like it'd be
I think they
weird.
are games that are more interesting when you feel them coming at you and you feel like you're that much
Yeah.
more into the
And it's very technical. Like it's not just hitting the blocks that's come at you. Some of them you have to like
slice in weird
You have to
ways.
step to the side too. It's oh man. I'll buy that for you. We'll play that when it comes out because I am excited for that.
I'm cool. Yeah, I assume it'll be reasonably priced. $20.
20 to 30.
Yeah, 20
Yeah.
to 30. That seems reasonable for what it's trying to do. And to an extent, you pay the VR tax on some games where it's because of
Just
how
like
weird
the Nintendo tax.
Yeah, I mean, it's
just
a thing.
raised.
It's a thing.
But we'll go ahead and move into our main topic. Thanks to Mr. Dan Al-Hazred. I think I pronounced
Al-Hazred?
Al-Hazred. Hope we pronounced that right.
The H may be silent. Al-Hazred. Yeah, Dan, one of these days, tell us how you say your last name. I have pretty good memory. Oh, by the way, Josh wanted me to tell you that it is Ayers. By the way, you were wrong.
Josh Ayers.
He said I have permission to slap
I know.
you.
I saw that part. I don't want you to smack me.
I won't slap you.
But Dan asked us a question on Reader Mail, which I think is still it was a really good question that I wanted to talk a lot on or whatever, but more on than what a Reader Mail question will lend its way to. And I think it's also a prevalent topic in this kind of gaming area we're going into real soon. But Dan says CD Projekt Red are aiming for current gen consoles with Cyberpunk. Realistically, that game will be hampered by current console hardware. I assume they also don't want to release it early in the next gen. While the install base is small, what to do? Compromise with cross-gen game? So basically, it's to the point now, and it's anytime we eclipse a console generation, we get to this point in which there are going to be games that are going to come out on both consoles. They're going to come out on the PS4, the PS5, whatever it's called. And because of that, the game on the PS5 isn't its full potential because it had to be ported to the PS4.
Yeah, so
and it's
basically
very
it has
noticeable.
to work across both.
Yeah. One of the early examples was Call of Duty Ghost being one of the earliest.
God,
yeah, it was so ugly, dude.
It looked awful.
Like-
and it's the problem was...
What else was it? Huh? Yeah, go ahead. I'm trying to think mentally.
Well, yeah, but Call of Duty
Speak out
Ghost is your
loud.
perfect example, right? Because so I know that you didn't play Shadowfall, but when you look at a game like Shadowfall that still holds
I
up
did
to
play
today...
Shadowfall. I just didn't beat it. I got like an hour, like 3 hours in.
Oh, I thought you just played multiplayer over at my house one day.
No.
I didn't know you played it by
I did the
yourself.
whole thing with drones and it was too hard.
Okay, well, then you understand the point of what I'm talking about, though. When you look at a game like that, and you see what Shadowfall looked like versus what Call of Duty Ghosts looked like, it made Ghosts look that much worse. It was like, I can't believe this is a next-gen game.
Destiny.
Or supposed to be.
Watch Dogs.
Watch Dogs is a perfect example of that.
Battlefield 4. Yeah, like these are Call of Duty Ghosts, of course. These are games that are really prevalent. And
Dragon Age Inquisition.
Now, I will say that game is the prettier of all these.
Dude,
the prettiest.
Yeah, but have you seen it on PC? It's beautiful.
I've not seen it on PC. Now, Dying Light is surprising because Dying Light actually doesn't look bad on PS4.
I didn't know that was a cross-gen.
I didn't either. But The Evil Within is for sure one that you can tell. I do mean for sure. The Wolfenstein for sure.
That game was
Metal Gear
hideous.
Solid 5. Not so much, but I can tell there is limitations on the game, especially with the controversies around it. Thief, you played Thief on PS4, right?
I did.
Could you kind of tell anything there? Go away.
Interesting. The game was in weirdly small segments that you moved through and that would kind of load between. So on PS4 at the time, it was actually pretty detailed. But it was like you felt the confines more in the way the game was designed because of it being small areas. So even though the game looked really pretty on PS4 for what it was trying to do, there was a couple of things that came through, but it was more like this game was designed to work on a PS3.
Yeah.
This wasn't designed in a way like when you play Killzone, right? And another example, but Killzone took the idea of a shooter that's normally very linear, definitely on PS3, and really just blew it out. Like, now you can go over here, you can do these objectives in your own order, and you can get through them in different ways. Like, you can go to them, and it made very big spaces. So you start to look at that, and that starts to be, don't get me wrong, Killzone Shadowfall was beautiful as a launch title. It's still beautiful. But you saw more of it in the way the game was designed. They thought about it like, this is a next-gen game. What do we want our idea of a next-gen shooter to be?
Yeah.
Well, you take that and you open it up and you remove load screens between areas and you give people the
freedom.
ability to choose things because now you're not limited by how much space you have. So you have to force them into this linear thing. Well, now you can do both and say they both have to be done, but you can tack them in your own order.
Yeah.
Or they all three have to be done, but you can go in your own order because we now no longer have this loading limitation that we originally did. So you see that on cross-gen games. And that's something. So do you have anything else you want to add off of that? Because I was going to go into the fact that we've had a little bit of this discussion in Discord with World End when we were talking about it. He was already saying that he before it was completely announced whether it was going to be a current gen game or a next gen game, he was saying he thought it was going to be current gen. But another thing he brought up, not to hop back onto the downgrades train, but he brought up the fact that Witcher 3 was noticeably downgraded from what they showed it running as what they wanted to hit and what they were aiming for.
And what we saw was PC gameplay for Projekt Red.
Exactly.
I mean, for Projekt Red, for
exactly.
Cyberpunk.
And very expensive.
100%.
Like, wasn't it $5,000? Then they say it was a $5,000
I'm
PC.
sure it was running dual 1080 Ti's with probably 32 gigabytes of RAM.
So maybe, if nothing else, like a $1,500 PC, if nothing else.
Oh, no, yeah. That's $1,500 for those two graphics cards, plus a good processor alone, yeah. But, yeah, so it's one of those things that kind of like, it almost goes back to what we were talking about in the end of last Reader Mail episode, is that for me, I have a kind of pretty solid opinion on this. And what it is that there's a selfish part of me that says, no, I want these new games to be on the new consoles and not on the old ones because I want the experience of a current or the next gen console when I get it. I don't want to experience something that's being hampered by something I've been playing for the past 5 years. The other side of me is like, well, then that means that people who don't have enough money can't afford the new games on these new consoles because they're not on PS4, which kind of good now that Microsoft is doing that with Xbox. Didn't think of that in that kind of realm in which now that may not be a thing anymore you have to worry about is affording a new console. Yeah.
That's we still, like, right now we know that Xbox is taking that route, but will they continue with their actual next-gen machine?
Yeah.
We have every reason to believe they will, but who knows?
It's going to be very intriguing to kind of watch it all play out. But what I was saying the last time is that somebody made a statement saying that the beginning of this gen and the end are wildly different than the beginning of PS3 and the end of PS3. I think that when a PS5 comes out, what we're going to see in terms of upgrades, is it going to be massive leaps to what is coming out by the end of this gen? So if it is dual launched on both across generations, I don't think it's going to be as bad as what we saw from PS4 to PS3 in terms of Call of Duty Ghost and all these other games.
So this is kind of tying back into what we were talking about that day.
Yeah.
So this was an episode last week to some extent.
No, it was a reader question.
It was the reader mail question.
At the very end, yeah.
Talking about...
Well, it wasn't even a reader mail question. It was a Twitch question from Kiki.
Really? I thought that was from Dan. The same guy who actually did this. I think he was asking what could consoles do to really push the next graphical limitation.
I think though that Kiki, or maybe it was even World In that brought it up in the Twitch chat about that. The endings and beginnings of both gens.
Sure, maybe. And I got what you were saying there, but so I guess you're talking the way that it affects cross-gen games is obvious. The games are not able to be optimized to a point of where they're really showing off. So here's one of my biggest argument I want to say against that is specifically from the company themselves. So it's not even about what another game did. You actually got to look, and it helps that this
true on a game by game basis.
Did. So when you're looking at CD Projekt Red as a developer, and you look at what decisions they made since they're not beholden to a publisher, what they basically decided is that they wanted to make The Witcher 3 for next-gen consoles, even though when they started making The Witcher 3 and developing it, they actually aimed for it to be on last-gen consoles.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, so what they decided was these new consoles are going to afford us a lot more power to make this game the way that we really envision it. And then some of it was stuff that they didn't even know because they were kind of learning as they were going into this open world setup. Again, they were iterating themselves to there from The Witcher 1 and 2. So when they leaned themselves up to that, it was one of those setups where you basically watched... Kyrie's trying to open the door. Hey, Kyrie, I'm working. Anyway, it was one of those things where you saw The Witcher 1 and 2 happen, and then when they were moving into 3, kids are
She
so
just
fun.
ran away crying. Poor Kyrie.
When they did that, they knew that they were going to kind of stumble into it because you're working with new hardware that you weren't quite affiliated with.
Yeah.
And of course, the game ended up coming out in 2015.
Yeah.
All right, so that's important to talk about too. So it came out a year and a half or so into, because the PS4 came out in November of 2013.
Yeah.
So when this game came out in like March or May or whenever it was, April, somewhere in that window.
I think it's April, right? Or May?
Something like that. But anyway, when it came out in 2015, the console had been on the market for about a year and a half.
Right.
All right, so of course, of the consoles that you had sitting around, you had 80 plus million PlayStation 3s, 80 plus million Xbox 360s to make the game for, but they opted instead to make the game the way they wanted it to, and instead went over to the PS4. They took a bet, and they bet right. PS4 did not crash like everybody thought it was going to. Xbox One didn't either. The next generation started off with a bang, both consoles selling 1 million units day one, right? That's awesome. By the time that they were a year and a half in, the PlayStation was already, this is guesstimation. I can't remember the exact numbers around that time, but I would imagine somewhere in the 15 to 20 million range, maybe, for PS4 alone. So, consoles across the board, you were probably looking at a 30 million the 20 to 30 million units pool of people.
Yeah.
So, and that's when the game released. Well, what do we know about The Witcher 3? The Witcher 3 is a game that came out and has continued to sell incredibly well throughout the entire generation.
Of course.
All right. Another game that also benefited from that was Grand Theft Auto. So what it comes down to is, yes, they may lose a little bit of the initial splash that they could have had, but when you do a game that really utilizes next-gen hardware in the way that it needed to, and The Witcher 3 would not have been possible on PS3 and 360 the way that it ended up coming out. So they took a chance. They made that change. Sound like I'm singing Kelly Clarkson now. But breaking away from...
Really?
Yeah, I needed to say it. Breaking away from that led them to a point where with The Witcher 3, they were able to make a game that was so good that the word of mouth ended up giving them sales over a longer period of time, which is Grand Theft Auto 5 also got done. It's been selling throughout the entire generation.
And both these games were continuously updated at like massive levels.
Exactly. They got a massive amount of support post-launch. So when you think about them doing that, is it really that dumb for them to go, you know what? We're not going to do it for PS3 and for PS4 and Xbox One. We're going to cut that. And instead, we're going to shift our focus to the Xbox 2, whatever you want to call it, and the PS5. I don't think it'll be called that.
Yeah, who knows at this point.
But, if they do that, I don't think that it's the worst idea in the world, because if they do that and just give an extra year of development time to make sure that they actually get it working how they need to, you may end up with a game that is also just as fondly received and word of mouth so widely praised that it sells throughout the generation, and they make the money that they made with The Witcher 3, which was hand over fist money.
Right.
And then they're able to do DLC that act as standalone, or not standalone, but they act as so big segments of the game that they're almost like an extra game, and they can continue supporting this game in such a way that they make their money back. We've already seen them do it once. I don't think it's that crazy to think they'll do it again.
No,
that
absolutely
said,
not.
I do still think that there's a chance these games are just PS4 games.
I mean,
PS4 and Xbox One.
I'm sure they are. And see, that's
and it won't be cross-gen at all.
And that may be, yeah, that is a high possibility in my mind, because it kind of goes back into what I was saying, is that I think that the gap in which cross-gen now is not going to be a massive gap that is going to be noticeable like it was last time.
I think it's noticeable in the back-end stuff is what's interesting. So yeah, I think what you
nothing
notice...
up front, like visuals, maybe even
I mean, they'll be there. Particle effects would be up,
Well, okay. Nothing like main visuals, though. Like, what I mean is, like, when you're playing a game, like, not everybody takes in all the particle effects and stuff. I'm talking about just comparing a screenshot to a screenshot.
Yeah, texture detail would start to give you diminishing returns. Because like 4K is about where you are at, where, like, they're developing 8K for no reason. 4K is to the point where if you're not close enough, you can't even...
8 feet.
completely visually tell a
Yeah,
difference.
I'm pretty sure it's 8 feet far or away from it. You can't tell the difference between 1080p.
So it gets weird when you start talking about that and where they're working at from a resolution standpoint. But then texture resolutions are another thing.
Texture resolutions, AI.
So that's one thing. But then that's where I was saying, I think the biggest jump you'll see is, particle effects and stuff like that. We'll see a bigger thing. Subscattering, surfaces.
It won't be
like
last gen though.
Yeah,
it won't be as the games won't be that completely different.
Where you look at Killzone 3 and then you look at Killzone Shadowfall and you're like, what? I agree with you in a lot of spots there, but I think that you'll still feel it. Like I said,
I'm sure you will.
Thief, I couldn't visually tell it a whole lot,
but
you could
tell you could tell by the way it was so small. And I think that at this point, the only thing that we can really do is sit back and wait, because there's two sides to this question. Is that if it's already being developed for cross-gen,
for cross-gen? So you're saying like they're already...
No, I'm saying if it is, then that means that the game is already going to be hampered in some capacity for next-gen titles.
Yes.
Compared to next-gen titles.
Yes, yeah.
Then there is also that it is not being, which is the double-sided sword, because it is going to either be a this-gen exclusive or it's going to be a next-gen exclusive. And there's going to be losers on each side of that. There's going to be people who want to play it next-gen and not this-gen. There are going to be people who can't afford next-gen consoles that want to play it this-gen. And then there's the third option, which is kind of irrelevant, but it's also a very high possibility nowadays, is that there will be a port. That last option doesn't really matter because you can still tell. You can still play The Last of Us, and even though as an oppressive game as that is, when you play it now compared to what other third-person style games there are, even if you're going to compare it to something like Days Gone, you can tell that The Last of Us came from last gen, but necessarily doesn't mean that's a negative.
So you don't mean port traditionally, you mean remaster?
No, pretty much I mean, yeah, I guess so. In terms of what next gen, like what would add to it, I guess a remaster would be a fitting word.
Yeah, you brought up The Last of Us. So The Last of Us is a remaster.
Yeah, because it's 60 frames, the textures are better. There's
Grand Theft Auto 5.
Something else.
It's not called Grand Theft Auto 5 Remastered.
It's not.
It's a port.
It's not, but there is a lot. I don't think it's just a port though. I don't remember.
No, when I say port, like it's more than just it's not even thinking of it like you're just taking the same game and putting it up. They went through and made sure that it ran well on PS4. They moved the entire online community to everybody up because they knew that was going to happen, because this is the console that's getting the most support and updates. They added first-person mode, so they went in and did more to the game, more than just remastering it. And I think that's what's interesting to say about that is Grand Theft Auto 5 might be the perfect example of a game that is technically cross-gen, but not cross-gen in the same sense as the other one. So I would still say that Grand Theft Auto 5 is obviously held back by the fact that it was built on the foundation of a PS3 360.
And even though Last of Us came fairly early on in PS4, I don't consider Last of Us cross-gen.
Yeah, I mean it's a remaster.
Yeah,
it truly
and
is.
I think
it's not a cross-gen game.
Yeah, and that's a possibility with the way I know how CD Projekt Red works is that if they were to remaster a game, it would be the quality of the remaster is probably going to be a lot better than the quality of a lot of games coming out launching on next gen, anyways.
You know what's really crazy about that though?
As sad as that is,
we say that there's got to be there's a line between a port and a remaster.
I don't think there does. I think a port is just a 1080p. 60 frames or whatever the traditional standard is.
I'm sorry, wrong road. Between a remaster and a cross-gen game, in a lot of sense, The Last of Us Remastered is really more. It's really the same effect that you got with cross-gen games. It looked better on PS4, but it's still held back by the fact that
that's what I was bringing up.
Game.
Yeah, that's why I brought it up.
So a remaster and a cross-gen game are essentially the same effect. It's just remasters only come late enough in the gen that you wouldn't consider them cross-gen because they weren't close enough to the launch windows.
Exactly, and that's why that was my example. Is because you can tell that, and that's what I said. I don't mean anything negative about it because I love The Last of Us, but you could definitely tell when you play it in this gen with other games, and like I compared it to Days Gone.
Yeah,
it is a product of last gen.
Yeah,
but it's super interesting to think about it that way.
And a lot of it is not visually only. Again, it's design.
Exactly. It's the corridor style levels that are present in some of the games.
That's going to be interesting.
It is. So like this is why I picked this topic, is because I was like, this is something that is going to be completely different in a weird way compared to what we normally see in terms of a cross gen, and it's something that I'm not going to judge until I see it, because
smart.
Yeah, because I mean. The quality of this specifically this game, if what we see in the trailer is what we get to a degree, like in terms of the effects that are going on in the game, the amount of enemies on screen, the texture quality, I know it's been bumped up on a PC, but I'm sure that there's a product in my mind of what I see that is compared to that I think we'll get,
that you feel like runs on current gen hardware.
Yeah,
and that will still look
perfect,
comparable.
Yeah, and I think that if we even get that, it's going to be such an odd thing that what you could see you'll get next gen, like with it, if they were to get it. So it's just interesting to think about, because cross gen is completely different. Like if you say the word cross gen now as a game title, you think to yourself, I don't want that because it's so bad because of this gen. But the way technology has completely shot up this past 5 years,
the law of diminishing returns to some extent anyway.
Yeah, so
which always exists.
Of course.
Because the other side that we haven't even talked about, which is what's weird. So I guess to tie in what I'm thinking about with CD Projekt Red, where I was going with is one of the other potential areas of improvement, right, would be the ability to go higher in scope of size. But dude, they're already making massive worlds that don't have to load.
Yeah, I was gonna say, compare, like if they made a game
and don't even have texture popping. Like Spider-Man is massive,
yeah,
realistically, and you just swing throughout the whole thing, and
right.
it's pretty detailed.
I've seen texture pop in, but I've never seen a building or anything physical pop in.
I've not even seen texture pop in yet. But
I've seen it a couple times.
Motion blur stuff helps that. So
I turned that off. That may be why.
Hi.
I turned off motion blur and chromatic aberration.
Yeah,
that's always two things I don't keep on ever. And I'm glad that, because before the day one patch, you couldn't turn those off.
Oh.
According to like 2 reviews I watched, and one's ACG, so I really trust him. He said that there is no way to turn motion blur off.
That's interesting.
So I am glad they updated that.
So I guess what I was going with though is that so when you think about that, right, going up in scope and size of the world doesn't really matter when certain studios are already exceeding massively at making worlds that are so big that it's like, do you think about the development time needed to make that world feel real and inhabited and going that much bigger? Eventually you go so big that it feels unnecessary, right? So if you get to the point where with this generation, Cyberpunk comes out, and depending on what they're talking about, which is having an area that's big on the ground but also very vertical, if they already hit that and it's so well, there might be the chance that even if it's not a cross-gen game, that as a PS4 game, Cyberpunk ends up feeling very similar to what next-gen games are trying to do, just by nature of them being that much above. I don't know if that's true, and I'm not claiming it will be.
That's one of the exciting aspects about it.
CD Projekt Red are a very interesting developer in the sense that you saw them kind of go above and beyond in such a weird way with going open world with The Witcher 3, and then they're being so ballsy as to step into a completely different genre with what they're doing and take on a whole different style, not only in terms of setting, but in terms of first person.
I don't think they've done a first person game ever.
They haven't. Their first game was The Witcher.
Was it really?
Yeah.
They haven't done any games besides The Witcher games.
The Witcher, The Witcher 2, The Witcher 3.
I thought for some
reason there was
a
clear progression in each one. The Witcher 1 was very linear. The Witcher 2 is like open hubs, almost like a Sly Cooper game, where you're in an area and you go through it, and then it loads and you're in a new area. And you can walk around through it. And then, of course, Witcher 3 is a fully open area that only loads whenever you fast travel. Or if you go to Skellige, or whatever the name of the island was. I think it's Skellige, where it's away. So you can't get there. Like, it makes sense as to why you load there.
Right, because you have to get there by boat like 6 days later.
Yeah, so, but anything else, that game, you can just move between areas and you didn't have problems. So when you think about what they were able to do there, and if they're able to do that here with CD Projekt, with Cyberpunk 2077, if they're able to pull that off, there's a chance that Cyberpunk ends up feeling decidedly next gen while being a current gen game.
Yeah.
And Cyberpunk can end up being that thing. Let's just say that we go back to that 2019 thing. If 2019 is PS5, and Cyberpunk comes and it says, we're going to come out. Let's just say let's follow the PlayStation 4. November 2019 is PS5. This is speculation, postulation. None of it has to be real. Don't know. I'm not even saying that it's true. But if that happens, right, and let's just say Cyberpunk goes, we're going to release in June of 2019, and then you start seeing launch games for PS5, and you're like, wow, this is better than or this is comparable to some of these launch games, and it's doing so with the smart, like the well optimized design and everything of this game is just, they were a little bit ahead of the curve in what you would expect from a next gen game design wise. Who knows?
Which could be bad for business. You may think, I don't need a PS5 if I can play games this good now. They're going to keep making games like this.
You know they won't keep making on PS4.
We know that. The average consumer won't.
Maybe.
Won't look into it. They'll
be like, definitely
if I can play, if I can play this game, I won't need a new PS5. This game looks better than all those, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
Very average, like, consumer mentality.
It'll be interesting because there are a lot of late bloomers, but you know, when you're talking about the core gaming audience, which is going to be the people who really support, if the game ended up being a PS5 game, it's going to be the people who support it first and foremost. It's going to be interesting. So
it is. Well, how about you guys let us know what you think in the comments? With cross-gen games being more and more prevalent of more power that we're getting with games, do you think that it's going to be a problem? Do you think it's going to be something you're not going to care about? What do you think specifically with Cyberpunk do you think will happen? And what do you want to happen?
An interesting one. Would you prefer Cyberpunk to be next gen due to the release schedule of the games, that we know are absolutely PS4 games?
Or do you want it to be on February 22nd of next year with everything else in the world? Yeah,
that sounds unlikely. But we are, I think, wrapping up. Saul, would you like to add anything else, good sir?
No, sir. Check out our Patreon side scroll here at the end if you're on YouTube, and be sure to listen for it.
Thanks to all our patrons. So
thank you very much. Check out links in the description for everything else you may want to inquire about us.
Yep, and we'll see you next week. This has been Triangle Squared. Thanks.